Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. In this video we are diving into the Zero Gravity Ultimate Frisbee handball mashup that is Echo VR. This game is currently in open beta on the Oculus store for the Oculus Quest. Echo VR is already available on the Rift, but we will still have to wait for crossplay between the two platforms. The Quest version sadly doesn't currently include the combat DLC, although probably will on full release, fingers crossed. Unfortunately, no game audio was recorded while getting the footage for this review. I think it's a problem on the game's end because it works fine on every other title I've recorded so far. I also did some testing by recording other games then trying again here, and the other games had their audio record just fine. No big deal though, as that was honestly the only issue I found in this beta so far. Upon starting Echo VR, you will be dropped into a tutorial to learn the basics of the game. Starting with manual dexterity, here you are taught how to use your new robotic hands to press buttons and grab things. You are also introduced to the most important object in Echo VR, the disc. This disc functions much like a frisbee and will be thrown into the opposing team's net to score points. Next up in the tutorial is the basic motor functions section. This portion of the tutorial teaches you the basics of navigating in a zero gravity environment, starting with grabbing objects around you to climb and pull yourself through the environment, and ending with throwing yourself across a gap to reach the next object. After that is the introduction of the maneuvering thrusters. These thrusters fixed on your wrist have you fly through the air by holding down Y and B on your controllers and using your arms to control the direction of travel. After maneuvering the obstacle course, here you are introduced to the primary boosters. These are activated by pressing down the left joystick and provide a short, powerful boost in the direction you are looking. Immediately after that is the braking thrusters. Activated by holding down the right joystick will bring you to a full stop. After learning all these mechanics, you are now ready to navigate the zero gravity world of Echo VR. The last portion of the tutorial is a brief introduction to the lobby and terminal that will be used to find multiplayer games. At the terminal, you begin a simulation that brings you into the arena for the first time. The simulation starts with you entering the catapult, which at the start of every round will launch your team into the arena at high speed. Next, the simulation will have you score by throwing the disc into the net at various angles. And lastly, introduces you to combat. Combat in Echo VR consists of punching and blocking. A punch is performed by holding the trigger on the hand you want to punch with and hitting your opponent in the head. This will stun your opponent for a couple seconds, but can be blocked by holding the trigger on both hands and bringing them to your face. If punched while blocking, your opponent is now the one who becomes stunned. Punches only work when hitting the head. Anywhere else on the body is ineffective. The tutorial now has you complete a full match against AI opponents, and once you have done that, you are free to play against real players and explore the lobby. Alright, now that the boring tutorial stuff is out of the way, let's talk about the rest of the game. Upon starting Echo VR, you will spawn in the lobby. It's actually a large social hub where you can interact with other players. In the center of this area is a cool 3D map of the entire space and the names of all the players in it. This map shows the 4 main marked areas, which are arena training, combat training, the brawler room, and the character customization room. The first room we're going to take a look at here is the character customization room. It's in this room that we can customize the way our characters look for all 3 instances, and those are social, blue team, or orange team. Here we can select individual body parts to add different things like decals or tints. We can also change the number displayed on our character's chest, and as well as add different things like badges or emotes to our character. The second area we're going to be taking a look at here is going to be arena training. Upon entering this area, we are greeted with another 3D map, although this time it's a scaled down version of the standard arena. Going into the training room itself, we see it's an asymmetrical arena, and it's here to practice movement and taking shots without being under the pressure of an actual match. Just above the room with the 3D map is another training area, and this one is a symmetrical map that can be used for 1v1 matches or also just to practice movement and taking shots. The third area we're going to take a look at here is the brawler room. Punching and blocking is enabled in this zone, so you can practice your fighting skills with anyone else who comes in. And the last area, unfortunately, is the combat training, which is not available on the Oculus Quest currently, but as I said in the intro, hopefully might be on full release. We're just gonna have to wait and see. Scattered throughout the lobby, there are also random toys and objects you can play around with. All of these things Ready at Dawn Studios added to this area transform it from just being somewhere you wait for a match into somewhere you can hang out with other players, practice new techniques, and actually enjoy spending long periods of time in. This has to be one of the most fleshed out lobbies I've ever seen, and you can have almost as much fun here as you can actually playing matches. So that's pretty much everything covered up to here. Let's get into the matches and how they play. The points are scored by throwing the disc into the opposing net. More points are given depending on distance and velocity of the disc when entering the net, so harder shots score more points. If your team got scored on in the last round, then in the next round you will start with possession of the disc. The team with the most points at the end of the game wins. The rules are pretty standard stuff. It's the execution where this game really starts to shine. The matches in Echo VR are intense, fast-paced, highly competitive, and require a lot of coordination with your team to get that disc in the enemy net. Now throw zero gravity in the mix and the ability to knock out opponents, and you have a recipe for a one-of-a-kind sports game unlike anything you've experienced before. There are so many strategies and techniques just to the movement alone. For example, when holding onto a teammate's body during the catapult launch, you can throw yourself off of them for an even bigger boost of speed and momentum. Or the way that you can move around using only your thrusters and primary boost like the tutorial teaches you and get around just fine with that, but with some practice using the solid objects in the arena or even the other players to throw yourself around, that can become an even more effective way of navigating. Combine your boosts and grabs together, and with lots of practice, eventually you'll master the zero gravity environment. Stunning an opponent with a well-timed fist and stealing the disc is super satisfying and can be a game changer when done right. The way the disc bounces can also be harnessed to score bank shots and sneak the disc past the opposing team. With all these skill-based techniques, this game definitely falls under the easy to learn, hard to master category, as players that use these advanced techniques will always have the upper edge on players who don't. Echo VR having a skill gap like this is great, as this will help maintain the competitive scene of this game for many years to come. The gameplay in Echo VR is smooth and a breath of fresh air just for being so different while still maintaining the basic sports framework everyone knows. The zero gravity element in a VR title just works so well. Moving around feels natural, and it's a very creative take on sports. The lobby is a joy to be in, and not just something you have to go through to get into the action. Add all of these great things to a price tag of $0, and Echo VR quickly becomes a must-have in any VR gamer's library, especially if you enjoy competitive sports games or just want to try something different. If you have an Oculus Quest and have been looking for something new and different, Echo VR is exactly that. And with the promise of cross-platform on release, it's another game you can play with your friends on PC VR. I've been loving this since it came out. Unfortunately, I'm not very good at it yet, or I would have used some better footage. But I'll be practicing, so I'll maybe see some of you in game. Anyway, the game's great, and I've said everything I'm going to say. So before I wrap this up, a friend of mine who goes by Sweezy on SoundCloud made the music I used for this video. If you liked it, go check out his other stuff. I'm gonna link it in the description below. I also want to take this time to thank you all very much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video at all, be sure to like and subscribe, drop a comment down below, and I'll catch you on the next one.